crush the Mustang before noon, or I will make sure Walker Auto never touches another Caldwell contract, Russell Vance said. In Caldwell Café went so quiet the espresso machine sounded rude for still hissing. Ryan Walker stood near the counter in a faded work jacket, snow melting from his sleeves, one rough hand resting on a disposal order for a dark blue 1969 Ford Mustang Fastback. Outside the window, the car sat chained to a flatbed, old chrome dull with salt, its long hood pointed toward the salvage yard like it already knew what powerful men did to inconvenient things. In the booth by the window, Ryan's 8-year-old daughter Lily held a worn teddy bear under one arm and traced the spelling word respect with a blue pencil. Audrey Caldwell, Chief Executive Officer of Caldwell Mobility Group, stood across from Ryan in a cream coat that looked too clean for a room smelling of burnt coffee and wet boots. She had signed the order. The Mustang was not just her father's old car. It was Prototype 1, the first experimental muscle car safety demonstrator Henry Caldwell had built before Caldwell Mobility became a national supplier. It had been stored under the company museum account for years. Now Russell wanted it destroyed before the afternoon merger vote with Northbridge Automotive. Ryan had refused after hearing a faint tapping inside the passenger side panel when the flatbed hit a pothole outside the cafe. You were hired to deliver a corporate asset, Russell said, not to turn scrap metal into a family seance. Ryan looked through the glass. That car is not scrap. Russell smiled. It is obsolete inventory with sentimental paint. An older waitress named Denise stepped closer, nervous but brave. Mr. Vance, Ryan only asked for 5 minutes. Russell did not look at her. Denise, when I need merger advice from the breakfast staff, I will wave a napkin. Her face fell. Ryan's eyes lifted. Do not do that. Audrey frowned. Do what? Make her smaller because she told the truth. A few customers shifted. Lily stopped writing. Russell gave a soft laugh. Now the mechanic is defending waitresses while holding a corporate prototype hostage. Ryan's jaw tightened. Nobody stole anything. Then obey the order. Audrey's voice cut through the room. Mr. Walker, that vehicle belongs to my company. I want it gone. Ryan heard the grief under the command, but grief did not erase the sound from the panel. Let me check it first. No, if there is nothing there, I will take it to the yard myself. Russell leaned close. And if there is something there, I suppose we all kneel before the honest mechanic? Ryan looked at Lily. Her pencil sat under the word respect. He knew this moment. Leave before rich people turned Lily into collateral. Walk away before a fight taught his daughter that truth was too expensive. He reached for his tool bag. I will note the inspection refusal. Audrey heard refusal more than note. Her hand moved before her pride caught it. The slap was not hard enough to knock him down. It was hard enough to make Lily drop her pencil. Ryan did not raise his hand. He bent, picked up the pencil, and placed it back on Lily's worksheet. Lily whispered, Daddy, why did she hit you when you were quiet? Audrey's face changed, but Russell spoke first. This is exactly the manipulation I warned you about. Owen Mercer, Audrey's security chief, stepped forward. Then Ryan's sleeve caught on the zipper of his tool bag and pulled away from his left wrist. A pale crescent burn scar showed under the cafe lights. Owen stopped. His eyes moved from the scar to the small brass key tag that had fallen near Ryan's boot. The tag was burned black on one edge, stamped HC, with a tiny star-shaped scratch beside the initials. I know that scar, Owen whispered. Russell's mouth tightened. Owen. But Owen kept looking at Ryan. The Caldwell Service Bay fire, he said. You were there. Ryan lowered his sleeve. Not in front of my daughter. Outside, a passing truck shook the flatbed. From behind the Mustang's passenger panel came one faint tap, thin as paper touching metal, like a buried promise begging not to be crushed. The tap from the Mustang did what Ryan's restraint could not do. It made Audrey Caldwell hesitate. She opened the cafe door and told the tow driver to hold the vehicle. Cold air moved through the room. Russell's face stayed calm, but his eyes sharpened. Ryan saw that look. It was not surprise. It was math. 5 minutes, Audrey said, as if giving him 5 minutes cost less than admitting he might be right. Ryan carried his tool bag outside with Lily close behind him. Stay where I can see you, Bug. Lily nodded and held Mr. Buttons under her chin. Can promises get scared? Only when people stop listening. Owen stood beside Audrey, still staring at Ryan's covered wrist. Henry told me someone came back through smoke before the official crew reached him, Owen said. The report never named you. Ryan opened the passenger door of the Mustang. Some men do not need their names on every good thing they did. Russell gave a short laugh. Convenient humility. Ryan ignored him. He tapped the passenger panel with 2 knuckles. The same dry answer came back, not from the dashboard, not from any modern motor, but from something loose inside the old metal cavity. That is not trim, he said. It is paper or thin stock moving against steel. Russell folded his arms. And you can hear that through traffic? Ryan looked at him. I fix old cars for people who cannot afford second guesses. Audrey watched his hands. They were not dramatic hands. They were careful. He loosened 2 screws and eased the panel just enough to peek inside, not enough to tear anything. A folded oil-stained note sat beneath the insulation. Ryan did not grab it. He used tweezers, slid it out, and placed it on a clean napkin Denise brought from inside. The writing was faded, but one line remained clear, star mark. Do not crush prototype 1 before Audrey hears it breathe. Audrey's face drained. That is my father's handwriting. Russell leaned over the paper. Or a convincing imitation. Lily lifted the brass tag from Ryan's palm. The tiny star scratch beside H.C. matched the word star. The little star is here. She pulled a short blue thread from her craft pouch. Can I tie it on, so it does not get lost? Ryan hesitated. That tag had lived 12 years in his toolbox like a sentence he never wanted to finish. Then he let her tie the thread through the hole. It hung beside the burn mark, small and bright against the old brass. Audrey watched the child's fingers move slowly. Why did my father give you that? Ryan looked at the Mustang, then at Lily. The night of the fire, he told me to keep it until you were ready to hear the car. Russell's voice turned colder. You waited 12 years to mention it. Ryan met his eyes. No, I waited 12 years not to. That landed harder than an accusation. Audrey heard the difference. A liar chases the room. Ryan was trying to leave it. Bring the car to your garage, she said. No crusher today. Russell stepped closer. Audrey, the merger vote is at 4. Northbridge is waiting on a clean asset certification. We cannot let a mechanic and a child's string derail a billion-dollar transaction. Lily looked up. If a string can derail it, maybe it was not very clean. Nobody laughed. That made the sentence stronger. Audrey stared at Russell, then at the Mustang. I said no crusher. Walker Auto was 20 minutes away, a low brick garage with a hand-painted sign and 2 bays that smelled of oil, rubber, and coffee gone old. Ryan did not try to start the Mustang until he checked fuel, lines, battery, and the carburetor linkage. This car is analog, he told Audrey. It does not sing because you turn a key. If your father hit a rhythm, it would be in the way the engine breathes. He adjusted the idle screw, checked the throttle return spring, and started the V8. The engine coughed, settled, then found a loping idle. Through the exhaust and the slight flutter of the mechanical throttle blade came a pattern. 3 soft pulses. Pause. 2. Audrey grabbed the fender. He used to tap that on the steering wheel when he wanted me to listen. Ryan nodded toward the passenger panel. Then he wanted you to hear it while the car was alive, not after it was crushed. By morning, Russell Vance turned the living car into a legal problem and the blue thread into a liability. He arrived at Walker Auto at 7:10 with 2 corporate security officers, a vendor suspension letter, and a correction statement already printed with Ryan Walker's name at the bottom. The Mustang sat in the center bay, engine cold now, passenger panel open, the note sealed in a clear sleeve on the workbench. Lily stood in the office doorway with her backpack on, Mr. Buttons under one arm, watching Russell like he was a door that might slam. You are holding a corporate prototype without authorization, Russell said. You contaminated a document, involved a minor child, and interfered with a merger certification. Ryan stepped between him and the workbench. Audrey saw the note. Owen saw the tag. Miss Caldwell saw what you wanted her to see while under stress. Russell placed the letter on the hood. Your garage is suspended from all Caldwell work pending review. Your current invoices will be held. Your access to all Caldwell facilities is revoked. Ryan read the words. They were clean, reasonable, and ugly. Unauthorized handling. Vendor risk. Child exposure. He stopped on that phrase. Russell noticed. I am trying to keep Lily out of this. Ryan looked at him. By putting her in the letter? Russell lowered his voice. Sign the correction. Say you misunderstood an old car noise. Say the tag came from a box of salvage keys. Return the car, the note, and the tag. In exchange, your daughter's name stays out of every report, and your garage survives the week. Lily whispered, Daddy, did I make trouble? Ryan turned. No, bud. Russell said softly. Then protect her. That was the trap, not a shouted threat. A safe exit with poison in the handle. If Ryan signed, Lily might avoid the internet. The garage might keep the lights on. Audrey might bury the Mustang and hate him privately. If he refused, Russell could tell the world a poor mechanic used his child to pressure a grieving chief executive officer before merger. Ryan picked up the pen. Lily stepped out of the office. The blue thread she had tied still hung from the key tag on the bench. If you say we lied, she asked, does that mean he wins? Russell's eyes flicked to the blue thread. Ryan saw it. He set the pen down. I will not teach my daughter that truth is a luxury item. Russell's calm face cooled. Then we document refusal. You brought the document before I refused. For the first time, Russell did not answer quickly. Ryan took photos before the officers collected anything. He did it openly. The key tag with blue thread. The star scratch. The note in the sleeve. The suspension letter lying and signed on the hood. The garage clock. Russell watched, irritated but too careful to stop him. One officer took the note. The other took the tag. Lily made a tiny sound when the tag left the bench. My string, she whispered. Ryan knelt beside her. We remember where it was. At school that afternoon, two parents stopped talking when Ryan entered the hallway. Lily heard the words fake note before he could guide her outside. She did not cry until they reached the truck. Did they believe him because we are poor? Ryan felt the question like a wrench dropped on bone. No, but the answer came too slowly. That evening, Audrey finally called. Her voice was tight. Russell sent me a scan. He says the tag had no secondary marking and no attachment. Ryan stood in the dark garage beside the empty workbench. Zoom in. I am looking at it. Look for Lily's blue thread. Silence. There is no thread. Look for the star scratch. More silence. It is blurred. Ryan closed his eyes. The evidence had not been lost. It had been cleaned. Lily was awake on the office couch, pretending not to listen. Daddy, she whispered. Did his picture erase me? Ryan turned toward her. He wanted to say no. He wanted to make the world smaller and kinder than it was. Instead, he said the only thing that did not lie. Tomorrow, we make the picture tell the truth. Audrey whispered through the phone. The merger vote is tomorrow. Ryan looked at the covered Mustang. Good. Let him bring his clean story to a dirty room. Ryan did not explain the altered scan like a lawyer. He made it visible like a mechanic. Audrey arrived at Walker Auto before dawn, face pale from a night without sleep. Owen came with her, carrying response notes from the Caldwell Service Bay Fire and a small folder from corporate security. Ryan opened his laptop on the workbench and placed Lily's worksheet beside it. The word respect traced so hard the paper had almost torn. Watch the corner, he said. He pulled up the photo he had taken before Russell's officers collected the tag. The blue thread hung clear from the brass loop. The star scratch sat beside H.C., like a tiny cut in the metal. Then he opened Russell's scan. The same corner looked smeared. The thread was gone. The star was gone. Ryan zoomed in until the image broke into blocky squares. See that straight blur? He asked. Old brass does not smear in a perfect rectangle. Somebody brushed over the corner. Lily leaned over the table in her pajamas under Ryan's old coat. That is where my string was. Owen placed one page beside the laptop. Simple version. Tag collected at 7:21. Russell held it alone at 7:32. Scan sent at 7:44. Audrey looked at the times. He had 12 minutes. Ryan nodded. Long enough to make a child disappear from a picture. Audrey stepped back as if the room had moved. Owen pointed to another page. He also changed the asset memo last night. Not the trust. Not probate. The corporate asset memo for prototype 1. He reclassified it as scrap inventory before the merger vote. Ryan looked at Audrey. Can he do that? Not alone, Audrey said. Unless no one checks before the vote. Owen's voice stayed low. Northbridge gets a clean certificate. Russell gets his transaction bonus. And anything Henry hid in that prototype gets crushed before outside counsel sees it. Lily tied a new blue thread around Mr. Button's wrist. Why does he hate a car? Ryan answered before Audrey could. He does not hate the car. He hates what the car remembers. At 3:45, Caldwell Mobility's merger review room looked like Russell had already written the ending. Board members sat beneath photographs of company plants and old safety campaigns. Northbridge representatives waited along one side. Reporters stood behind a rope line because the merger announcement was supposed to be public by evening. Ryan was placed at a small table near the front, close enough to be questioned, not close enough to look respected. Lily sat beside him with Mr. Buttons. Audrey stood at the board table. She carried shame, proof, and a decision. Russell opened with a gentle voice. "No one here wants to attack a working father," he said. "But compassion cannot replace procedure, and procedure cannot pause a merger every time an outside vendor hears ghosts in an engine." Ryan felt the room look at Lily. Audrey stood before Russell could continue. "Before this review begins, I need the record to state something. I struck Mr. Walker in my family cafe. I frightened his daughter. I let Russell turn my shame into a weapon." The room shifted. Russell's smile paused. Audrey's voice shook, but it did not break. "If grief made me vulnerable, it made me vulnerable to him." Russell recovered because recovery was his profession. "Miss Caldwell's statement proves my concern. This matter has become personal." Audrey looked at him. "It became personal when you tried to crush my father's prototype before I could hear it run." Russell spread his hands. "A romantic sentence, not a board matter." Ryan stood quietly. "Then make it one. Start the car." The Northbridge executives looked annoyed. Margaret Keene, the board chair, narrowed her eyes. "Explain." Ryan pointed through the glass wall to the service bay, where the Mustang had been placed under guard. "If that engine does not breathe in Henry Caldwell's 3-2 idle, I walk out. If it does, you inspect the passenger panel in public." Russell laughed. "This is absurd." Lily looked at him. "Then why are you scared of a sound?" The Mustang started in the service bay with the whole merger room watching through glass. It did not behave like a new car. It coughed once, stumbled, then settled into a loping idle Ryan had tuned by hand that morning. The V8 breathed through its old exhaust. The mechanical throttle blade fluttered against the modified return spring. 3 soft pulses rolled through the bay. Pause. 2. Audrey closed her eyes. "That is him." The room did not understand the emotion yet, but they understood one thing. Russell had called it scrap. It sounded alive. Ryan killed the engine and returned to the review room. Henry Caldwell built that rhythm into Prototype 1 so his daughter would know the car was running the way he left it. The note said not to crush it before Audrey heard it breathe. She heard it. Russell's voice sharpened. "A custom idol does not prove corporate relevance." "No," Ryan said. "The passenger panel does." Margaret Keene leaned toward the microphone. "Produce the original tag and note." Russell adjusted his cuff. "Given contamination concerns, I recommend executive session." Audrey said, "No, the word cost her years of obedience. Open my father's evidence in the room where you tried to bury it." Reporters typed. Northbridge executives whispered. Russell saw the room slipping and did what he always did. He applied pressure. "Mr. Walker, did you refuse to sign a correction that would have protected your daughter from publicity?" Ryan looked at Lily. Her fingers tightened around Mr. Buttons. "I refuse to call my daughter's truth a misunderstanding." "Did you photograph corporate materials after receiving a hold notice?" "Before your officer signed it." "Did you bring a minor into a merger review?" Lily stood before Ryan could stop her. Her voice was small, but clear. "I came because he erased my blue string." Russell's expression cooled. Children should not be coached to perform. Ryan stepped forward, quiet enough to scare the room without threatening anyone. "My daughter is not your sentence." The line reached people before the documents did. Margaret Keene said, "Produce the original." Russell opened the envelope. The burned brass key tag slid under the document camera. On the screen above them, the room saw HC, the blackened edge, the star-shaped scratch, and one frayed blue thread still caught beneath the loop. Lily whispered, "It stayed." Owen placed the simple access sheet beside it. Tag collected at 7:21. Mr. Vance held it alone at 7:32. Cropped scan sent at 7:44. Russell snapped. "Security does not question counsel." Owen did not flinch. "Security keeps doors honest." Audrey placed Ryan's time-stamped photo beside Russell's scan. "The child's thread was present before your custody. It vanished in your official scan." "Explain that." Russell attacked the only target left. Loose fibers were removed for documentation. Margaret Keene looked at the screen. Then why is a piece of it still on the original? Russell had no clean answer, so he changed rooms without moving. None of this affects the merger. Ryan pointed to the note. Read the bottom line. Russell had cropped the scan above it. The original showed more, star mark. Do not crush prototype 1 before Audrey hears it brief. Check the safe link appendix before any merger certification. Audrey turned cold. Safe link. A Northbridge lawyer stood. What appendix? Margaret Keene ordered the corporate secretary to pull the asset packet on the screen. No technical lecture followed. Only 2 files appeared big enough for everyone to understand. One was titled Prototype 1, Safe Link Appendix. The other was titled Scrap Reclassification. The first had been removed from the merger packet the previous night. The second carried Russell's approval code. The room did not need a law degree. One file protected the prototype. One file sent it to the crusher. Russell had touched both. Audrey looked at him. You were not cleaning assets. You were cleaning history. The safe link appendix did not need to be read aloud page by page. One drawing was enough. The corporate secretary opened a scanned engineering sheet from Henry Caldwell's archive. It showed a hand-built safety latch system, early crash test notes, and a stamped plate number that matched the Mustang sitting in the service bay. It also showed a restriction written in Henry's plain language. Prototype 1 must be preserved until independent safety review is complete. Margaret Keene looked at Russell. Why was this removed from the merger packet? Russell's mouth opened, but every possible answer made him smaller. It was outdated. Audrey said, then why hide it? It could have delayed the transaction. That means it mattered. Northbridge's lead counsel stepped away from Russell as if bad faith had a smell. Our certification package stated no active legacy prototype obligations. The room shifted hard. This was no longer about a grieving daughter or a mechanic with a story. This was a corporate disclosure problem Russell had created in public on the day he expected applause. Ryan watched him realize the tool had turned. He had built a merger vote to crush the truth fast. Now the merger vote had put every missing page on a screen. Margaret Keene cut Russell's microphone. The click was small. The satisfaction was not. Pending outside investigation, Mr. Vance is removed from merger authority and all Caldwell legal control. The scrap reclassification is void. The vendor suspension is reversed. The Northbridge vote is paused. A public correction will be issued today. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Vance, did you provide the altered scan to local media? Russell looked at the dead microphone. No answer could help him. Owen stepped aside as building officers guided Russell from the podium. In the cafe, Ryan had stood with a red mark on his cheek, while Russell owned the room. Now Russell left through the side aisle without a voice while Ryan remained beside his daughter, the blue thread shining under the evidence camera. That was the punishment people needed to see. Not revenge. Reversal. Audrey walked to Lily's chair and knelt, even though cameras were present. Lily, I am sorry I made you afraid in my family's cafe. I am sorry my people made your school hallway feel unsafe. You did not lie. Your string mattered. You mattered. Lily studied her face. Are you still going to crush the car? Audrey's voice broke, but stayed clear. No. I am going to restore it. Lily thought about that. Not too shiny. A gentle laugh moved through the room. Why not? Audrey asked. Because then it might forget it survived. Ryan closed his eyes for half a second. The child had said what adults needed a corporate disaster to learn. Scars were not shame. They were proof that something lived. Margaret Keene tapped her microphone. There is one more item. Owen placed a small cassette recorder on the evidence table. This was found in the prototype storage box this morning. Chain was verified by corporate security before counsel arrived. Audrey stared at it. My father's. Owen nodded. Ryan looked at her. You do not have to play it here. Russell was gone. The official justice had happened. But Audrey understood the heart of the room. If everyone heard only files, Henry would remain a compliance issue. If they heard his voice, he would become a father again. She pressed play. Henry Caldwell's voice came out rough, old, and warm. Audrey, if you are hearing this, then someone tried to make you crush the one machine in our family that never learned how to lie. I am sorry I let men call control protection. I am sorry I left you a fight instead of a hug. But listen to the mechanic if he is near you. His name is Ryan Walker. He came back through smoke when better-dressed men stayed outside. He did not ask to be remembered. That is why decent people must remember him on purpose. The tape clicked softly. No one applauded. Some moments are too human for noise. Lily slipped the blue-threaded tag into Audrey's hand. "He wanted you to hear him," she said. This time Audrey did. After the tape, the merger room no longer felt like a place built for signatures. It felt like strangers had been trusted with a dead man's last unfinished kindness. Audrey stood with the key tag in her palm, the blue thread wrapped over her knuckles, and turned toward Ryan. "My father gave you a burden I should have carried." Ryan shook his head. "He gave me a promise. Promises are not lighter when rich people hold them." Denise, the waitress from Caldwell Café, cried in the back row. Margaret Keene invited her forward because Audrey asked for the record to include the first wrong, not only the final crime. Denise did not make a speech. She stood in her apron and said, "A man who treats the waitress like she matters when nobody important is watching is not the man Russell described." That sentence traveled farther than any legal memo. The board voted to restore Walker Auto as an approved vendor. The public correction was dictated before Ryan left the building. It named the altered scan. It withdrew the misconduct claim. It stated that Ryan Walker preserved Caldwell evidence and protected Prototype 1 from wrongful destruction. Ryan did not smile when they read it. He looked relieved and tired, like a man who had held a heavy engine part too long and finally found a table strong enough to set it down. Northbridge's counsel asked for a recess and a full safety review. Margaret Keene granted it. The merger that had been racing toward a photo opportunity now had to wait for the truth to finish speaking. Outside headquarters, snow had stopped falling. The Mustang waited in the service bay, no longer headed to the crusher. Audrey stood beside it with Ryan and Lily. "What happens now?" Lily asked. Audrey looked at the car. "Now we listen." Ryan opened the hood and checked the idol once more. He did not rush. He never rushed old machines or wounded people. "Your father built the rhythm into the cam and throttle return," he told Audrey. "Not magic. Not a ghost. Just a man who knew his daughter would recognize a sound before she trusted a document." Audrey touched the fender. "I used to hate that rhythm." "Why?" Lily asked. "Because it meant Dad was about to tell me to be patient." Lily nodded seriously. "Sometimes dads are right and annoying." Ryan looked at her. "Careful." For the first time since the cafe, Lily laughed without checking the room first. That laugh became the real ending of the vote. Not the board order. Not Russell being walked out. That laugh. The next morning, Ryan walked Lily into school. He expected whispers. Instead, the principal met them at the front office and said the school would correct the rumor without naming Lily. Over the morning announcements, a calm voice reminded families that children should never carry adult gossip in their backpacks. Lily listened from the doorway of her classroom. "That was about us," she whispered. Ryan crouched. "It was for you without using you." She touched Mr. Button's stitched ear. "That is better." When Ryan returned to Walker Auto, 3 customers waited outside. One had canceled the day before and now held his keys like an apology. Denise brought coffee. Someone had taped a handwritten note to the garage door. Same honest hands. Ryan stared at it for a long moment. Audrey arrived in jeans, a plain coat, and no entourage except Owen, who carried a box of prototype records. "I thought chief executives did not work Saturdays," Ryan said. "I thought mechanics did not save companies." "I did not save yours." "No," Audrey said. "You saved the part of it my father wanted alive." They pushed the Mustang into the center bay. Lily placed Mr. Buttons in the back seat, so someone kind rides along. Ryan labeled each part, photographed each removal, and wrote down what he did not yet know. Audrey watched him refuse to fake certainty. "You really do not pretend." Ryan looked up. Pretending is how good things get crushed. Restoration did not arrive like a miracle. It arrived in stubborn Saturdays, cold coffee, stripped screws, and the slow trust of people who had learned not to rush what had almost been destroyed. Ryan worked on the Mustang after school pickups and paying jobs. Audrey approved an independent safety review and placed Prototype 1 under a preservation order that no single executive could override. Owen corrected the old service bay fire report, so the blank line that once said unidentified mechanic now read Ryan Walker. Denise brought soup until Ryan told her the garage was not a diner, then brought biscuits instead because she said biscuits were different. Lily taped her spelling worksheet beside the office door. The word respect stayed there, not perfect, but brave. One afternoon, Audrey found Ryan staring at the crescent scar on his wrist while the Mustang cooled. "Does it still hurt?" she asked. Ryan pulled his sleeve down by habit, then stopped and pushed it back. Only when I pretend it does not exist. Audrey nodded. That sounds familiar. They did not turn pain into romance. They turned it into honesty. Lily walked in with Mr. Buttons and a new blue thread. This one is not evidence, she announced. It is for the shop wall. She tied it around a small brass hook near the Mustang records. Under it, Ryan wrote with a marker, "Promises are easier to keep when everyone can see them." Audrey read it and looked away. Ryan let her have the privacy of being moved. 3 weeks later, the Mustang started under its own power. It did not roar like a movie. It coughed once, hesitated, and then settled into a low, uneven rumble that made every person in Walker Auto go quiet. Ryan stood by the open hood, one hand near the fender. Lily sat safely on a wooden step with Mr. Buttons in her lap and safety glasses sliding down her nose. Audrey stood beside the driver's door, hair tied back, hands marked with honest grease she had stopped wiping away every 5 seconds. The dark blue paint was still imperfect. Ryan had refused to polish out every scar before the engine lived. A car should not look brand new before it tells the truth, he had said. Lily approved immediately. The blue-threaded key tag now hung from the ignition in a small clear sleeve, the original thread visible. It was no longer just evidence. It was inheritance. Audrey turned off the engine and let the silence settle. "I keep thinking about what Lily said," she told Ryan. "Not too shiny, or it might forget it survived." Ryan closed the hood gently. "Kids say the things adults spend money trying not to hear." Lily raised a hand. "I am right here." "And correct," Ryan said. She smiled. Audrey walked to the shop wall where a new metal plate had been mounted. Audrey Caldwell Prototype 1 Safety Review, preserved by Caldwell Mobility, verified by Walker Auto. Under it was Ryan's name in the fire record. Audrey touched the plate. "My father remembered you before I knew how." Ryan looked away. Praise still sat awkwardly on him. Lily climbed down, walked to Audrey, and placed Mr. Buttons on the passenger seat. "He says your dad can borrow him for the first drive." Audrey knelt. "That is a big honor. He is good with scared people." Audrey laughed softly, then cried before the laugh was finished. Ryan stepped back to give her space, but Lily took his hand and pulled him forward. "Daddy, sometimes people need you to stay." That was his wound, named by the only person who could make him face it. He had always thought leaving protected her. Leaving the cafe, leaving the fire report, leaving rich families to their own storms. But silence had not protected Lily from Russell. It had only taught Russell where to press. Ryan squeezed her hand. "I am learning." Audrey looked up at him. "So am I." Winter evening turned the street outside Walker Auto gold. Neighbors gathered near the open bay, not as a crowd hungry for scandal, but as witnesses to repair. The Mustang faced the street, imperfect paint under soft light, hood warm, exhaust breathing white into the cold. Ryan checked the idle one last time, then handed Audrey the key. The blue-threaded tag swung from it like a tiny flag that had crossed a battlefield no one expected it to survive. Audrey held it carefully. "First drive should be yours," she said. Ryan shook his head. "No, it waited for you." She looked at Lily. "Then she comes too." Ryan hesitated only once. The old fear rose, small but familiar. "Keep her out. Keep her safe." Then Lily lifted her chin. "Truth did not hurt me, Daddy. People hiding it did." He opened the passenger door. "Then climb in, bug." Lily placed Mr. Buttons beside her in the back seat and buckled herself. Ryan sat in the passenger seat, where the hidden note had slept for 12 years. Audrey slid behind the wheel. For a moment, she did not start the car. She looked at the garage, at Denise holding coffee with both hands, at Owen standing with his arms folded too tightly, at the neighbors who had come because a corrected name can call a town together. "I am sorry," she said, not to the crowd, but to the life she had almost thrown away because Russell taught her that grief was weakness. Ryan answered softly, "Then do something different with the apology." Audrey started the engine. The V8 caught, stumbled, then settled into the 3-in-2 breath Audrey Caldwell had hidden in metal, fuel, cam, spring, and memory. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap. Audrey smiled through tears. "I hear you, Dad." Lily leaned forward. "What is it saying?" Audrey thought for a moment. "Be patient." Ryan looked at Lily. "And annoying?" Lily grinned. "And right." The Mustang rolled slowly out of Walker Auto. Nobody cheered loudly. They only watched, quiet and smiling, As the car passed the shop sign and entered the street it had nearly never seen again. Ryan glanced back at the garage. 3 days earlier, he had thought he might lose it. Now the bay door stood open. His name was restored. His daughter was not whispering. The truth had not made their life smaller. It had made the room bigger. At the first red light, Audrey rested both hands on the steering wheel. My father used to say machines remember how they are treated. Ryan looked at the dashboard. People do too. In the back seat, Lily untucked her spelling worksheet from Mr. Button's vest pocket. The paper was bent and smudged, but the word was still readable. She held it up between the front seats. Respect, she read, clear and proud. Audrey touched the blue-threaded key tag. Ryan looked at his daughter and felt something inside him finally loosen. Not all the way. Some wounds do not vanish because justice arrives. They simply stop being the only thing the heart can hear. Behind them, Walker Auto glowed against the cold. Same honest hands, same open door. Ahead of them, the Mustang's headlights reached down the road like two promises being kept. Some truths do not need to shout. They only need one person brave enough to listen, one child brave enough to ask, and one old engine strong enough to breathe again.